Welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast. This week we're discussing Sony closing Bluepoint Studios and Xbox's Phil Spencer retiring. What a week.
Yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast with all your friendly neighborhood black nerds, where we cover all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture stuff with absolutely zero of the BS. Back with a new episode every Monday morning. I am your host, Sage Ashford. These are my co-hosts, Rakeem Beck and Terrence Flowers. Man, this week we had a whole other show in mind, but instead we're going to talk about how gaming is fucked and greed is going to be the death of every industry that we love. Let's just go ahead. Let's not waste no time. We was going to do like this thing. Initially, we was going to talk about something, and we'll get to this next week. We were talking about games coming out in March. Y'all will have to wait till March 2nd to see that. But we felt that this was such an important series of events that just kind of came out of nowhere. And it started on Thursday with Sony shutting down Bluepoint Studios, which kind of came as like a gut shot to everybody. This right here comes, the initial statement comes from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. Sony Group Corp is shutting down Bluepoint Games, the PlayStation subsidiary responsible for developing remakes of video games such as Demon's Souls. Roughly 70 employees will lose their jobs amid the studio closure, a PlayStation spokesperson said, writing in a statement that the decision was made following a recent business review. Bluepoint will officially shutter next month. Bluepoint is They have a little quotation up, quote, Bluepoint is an incredibly talented team, and their technical expertise has delivered exceptional experiences for the PlayStation community, quote, the spokesperson said, quote, we thank them for their passion, creativity, and craftsmanship. Founded in 2006, the Austin-based studio was known for developing high-end remakes of older games such as Uncharted and Shadow of Colossus for modern platforms. Sony acquired Bluepoint in 2021, shortly after the successful release of Demon's Souls on PlayStation 5, and tasked it with co-developing 2022's God of War Ragnarok. Following that game, Bluepoint began working on a live service God of War game, Bloomberg previously reported. But it was canceled in January 2025. PlayStation said at the time that it was working with Bluepoint to determine the studio's next project, and obviously we see ain't no next project. Our hearts obviously go out to the 70 people that are losing their jobs. Hopefully Sony can find other jobs within the company for them, or they go on to find jobs that are more stable, possibly outside this industry, because everybody just keep firing people for no fucking reason. Where to start with this? Because this is a lot.
Yeah.
What was the point of a live service God of War game? Like, who wanted that?
You know, I guess it's probably the same people that were the same people that don't like the Horizon Hunters Gathering are probably asking that same question. I mean, to be honest, if you want to critique live service games, this is a valid critique here, is the fact that trying to do so many of those games is killing off these studios, or is making these execs kill off these studios. I'll put it that way. Like, in some ways this ties into our whole games, like why do gamers want games to fail conversation, because while they're talking about gamers wanting games to fail, like them, it's very much like a seeing what's going to be the next failure kind of thing. The flip side of that is when you have like all these studios that really should be working on something else, working on these live service games, stuff like this happens, and it sucks. It really does, because Bluepoint had no business working on a live service God of War game. Just, that's not where their talent should have been used, like, at all.
I can say this, on Twitter there was a discussion, the idea of how who asked for this is a stupid question, but sometimes it is a question that you need to answer. Like with Horizon Hunters Gathering, like, okay, I can see how you would come up with a world where like, I'm a hunter, or I'm a person within that world, and that world kind of leans itself. It leans into being a multiplayer world if that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these different tribes, and you can be part of a different tribe. The tribes all have certain purposes, and so there's a lore there where if you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, sure, this can be a multiplayer universe. What is multiplayer about God of War? Like, the protagonist is Kratos, man. Like, Kratos and his son, and then after that, it's like you have a couple of characters that you can be, but for the most part, like, that's not a world where you can have like this live service, everybody get to be somebody. Like, nah, that's not. People want to be Kratos, man.
Yeah.
As they're about to find out, because I'm sure that there's an Atreus game in the works or something like that, or an idea like that, and it's like, man, y'all about to find out real fast. Like, it's the Kratos show over there, baby.
Yeah.
Like, you 5 games deep. That's 7 with the PS Vita games.
1, 2, and 3. I think there were 2 PSP games.
Chains of Olympus, and then there was like Ascension.
Right.
Ascension wasn't a PSP game. It was the multiplayer game. The game that had, it was a spin-off game that had multiplayer. It was like a prequel, and it had multiplayer. And what, there 2 PSP games, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we were like Ascension and Chains of Olympus, I believe.
I thought one of them was Ghost of Sparta, but I could be wrong.
Actually, no. You actually might be right. Maybe there's 3.
I know, because I so they had Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus, and then Ascension was on consoles because I played it. And then of course the new ones. But yeah, I this is funny, not funny to me, but I remember back when God of War Ascension came out, and like it had the campaign like a normal God of War game, but it had the multiplayer. Even back then, people were like, does God of War really need multiplayer? Like, is that really lends itself to it? I mean, I get it's a trend, and I feel like this is also a symptom of the shift Sony made into the live service arena with all these games, is that you look at your franchises differently, where you valued them in the past for these single player experiences that gamers were used to, and what really helped you dominate a whole generation, like PS4, late PS3. Well, not late PS3, Xbox kind of won it, but you know what I mean.
No. But by late PS3, they were dominating. Like,
you're right.
The tides had shifted back to Xbox. I mean, to PlayStation.
Okay, but yeah, and since they did the shift to live service, it makes you reevaluate what you value in your games more. Thank God, Ghost of Yote, it did its single player thing, and the multiplayer thing is a whole separate thing. The studio actually works on themselves and not just open, this kind of live service project. I feel as though Sony has like jumped the shark a little bit on what players want from the equity they built up. They built this equity up on these single player games, and they thought that would segue into the multiplayer arena. That's not necessarily true. Those audiences don't always mix together. We all know that there's an audience that prefers single player campaign games, and there's an audience that prefers multiplayer games. I'll tell you right now, one of my best friends, I bring him up all the time, Robert Ivy. Hey, Robert, if you're watching this. And he told me to my face, because he played Ghost of Tsushima, and I told him, hey, Ghost of Yote is coming out like months ago. I was like, okay, cool. When does the multiplayer come out? And I was like, well, they haven't announced it yet. It is now. He said, when the multiplayer comes out, I'll buy the game. That is a different gamer than a single player focused gamer. They don't have the same mindset. So like, when you evaluate your franchise, you need to remember that not people who value multiplayer first and play multiplayer and live service and the same games every day, they might not value single player experiences or have these ties to these franchises the same way that your primary audience does. So you don't want to lose your primary audience in the chase for live service. I know the audience could be greater, but that's a risk there. That's just a risk evaluation. And so far,
and it's a risk that hadn't paid off for them at all, because
they want to get it hasn't paid off.
We talked about this last week, where they said there were going to be at one point they had a dozen different live service games in the works. Bluepoint was one of them. That's another one that didn't work. I think of the 12 that they had, I think maybe 2, 3, because Helldivers 2 was one of them. Horizon Hunters Gathering was another, and I'm blanking. I think there was a third one.
We still have what's that? Payday.
Horizon
Payday. What's
wasn't
that
Horizon
game
have a survival MMO coming out or something like that?
Yeah, but that's not one of them.
What was that game that was revealed along with Concord that Sony?
Fair Games.
Fair Games. That's
Fair
what
Games.
it is. Yeah.
And that's not out yet, and we'll see.
We'll
see if that ever even comes out. Because, like, I don't understand how we have Bluepoint and they get shut down. First off, it's not that many people. That's not a huge studio. 70 people. And I'm like, man, you can't find something for them to do. Like, you can't figure out a remake for them to have. Like, there are so many franchises, like Sony franchises, that people would have wanted. There's the obvious elephant in the room one that everybody wants. And then there are others, even if you can't work it out with Miyazaki and get Bloodborne remake, like there are others that you could have tapped them and be like, hey, man, I know y'all wanted to do your own original thing, but right now it's remake, or we may have to start talking about closing this place up. And I'm positive that everybody there would have been like, hey, man, it sounds like we about to remake another video game then.
And hey, they've been glad to work. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure that everybody would have preferred to just keep staying at their job doing something instead of this. And also, like, what's with all the shutdown? Like, it's not like Sony's had a ton. Like, I know that this year is going to be a big year for them, but like, I think if you talk to the average PlayStation fan that cares about first party, a lot of them are going to be like, man, I thought I would have had more video games by now.
Yeah.
And you know how you get more video games? By having more developers. And so I'm just sitting here wondering, like, why are you shutting down this team? Like, I know that there was an email out. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on, just
sidebar, by the way. I was very surprised they didn't have Bluepoint involved with the God of War remakes coming out. I feel like that would have been
like why wouldn't they work alongside Santa Monica sense. Is baffling.
Yeah, that's actually another one. So from Kotaku, Ethan Gatch over Kotaku, here's the email about why PlayStation shut down a studio that put out great games. Quote, I wanted to share an update from the studio business, the message, a copy of which was viewed by Kotaku, began. As I mentioned in the December town hall, 2025 had some strong highlights within PlayStation Studios. Ghost of Yotei launched a critical and commercial success. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach further showcased our commitment to narrative excellence, and Helldivers 2 and MLB The Show continue to drive ongoing player engagement and revenue. This is insane. I hope that's not what you sent to the people as you were laying them off. It continued. At the same time, we're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment. Rising development costs, slowed industry growth, changing player behavior, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. To navigate this reality, we need to continue adapting and evolving. We've taken a close look at the business to ensure we're delivering today while still well positioned for the future. As a result, we will be closing Bluepoint Games in March. What?
Yeah, that sounds like corporate jargon.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of corporate bullshit, which you expect. But it's like, what? How are you making sure you're well positioned for the future? Like, you just talked about all these successful games that you released. So it's not like you're not making money. And you need games for the future. But to position yourselves for the future, we're going to lay a bunch of people off.
You know what this sounds like? This is PlayStation's version of what Xbox did with Tango Gameworks. In terms of like getting rid of a team that made a success. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was a success and was the type of game that Xbox needed in terms of like a game of the year type of candidate. Artistically, it was very fun. It was unique, something that no other studio was doing. Came out, critical acclaim, commercial acclaim, I believe, for the most part, and they still got shut down for it. That's pretty much what this sounds like to me, except in this case, Bluepoint was working on something that the execs told them to do. It wasn't working out, and instead of somebody at the top taking like the punishment for wasting all that time and money, they decided like, oh, we'll just close this studio instead. You know, make it make sense.
That's typically what winds up happening. They pass it on to everybody else. Like the mistakes are passed on to all the workers at the bottom, instead of like, hey man, like you said, like, hey man, you screwed up. Like, we shouldn't have been working on this in the first place. We should have been working on something else. Like you said, like they could have easily been working on those God of War remakes, but apparently, which makes you wonder, like, who's working on those God of War remakes?
Santa Monica themselves. Santa Monica themselves.
They have a new IP that they're working on.
I guess they're splitting it.
Yeah,
Well, it's possible there could be some outsourcing too. It's probably like a combination of things. And studios they'll pull people from different areas and work together on projects. So
if you're doing that, then that sounds like you could have pulled.
You could have had
Bluepoint.
I look, man, I don't get it either. Hey, as a person who has reading this Sage Farm Point, what you just said, as a person who has literally been laid off before, and I didn't even get an email. We were going the next day. My heart goes out to them because I've seen this corporate jargon before, and sometimes you could be, in our case, when what company I was working for, you might not even be losing money. It could just be like, we scaled up and y'all don't make enough money now that we've scaled up, so we're closing you. It could be you hit all your targets, still doesn't matter because they built a new building somewhere and that costs a lot of money, and we got this location and that costs a lot of money, and so we got to cut money somewhere else. So don't ever blame yourself for what corporations do, because they're going to do what's best for them and not what's best for you at all times.
That's facts.
Yeah, facts.
That's 100% facts. And I mean, like, here's what I don't get. Because one of the excuse they made for, like you said, Hi-Fi Rush with Tango Gameworks, the excuse they made was, hey, it's going to take y'all a long time to develop a project. And so rather than put a whole bunch of money in, we're just going to go ahead and lay y'all off now. And it's like, I have to imagine that's something of what happened here, that they got to a certain point in God of War that clearly wasn't working. And so they got rid of God of War and they spent what sounds like a year working on coming up with a new idea for them to get. Yeah. But I guess someone did some, bean counting or whatever and thought, well, if y'all don't have an idea yet and it's been a year, even once we find you an idea, it'll be months. It'll be years of development before you're like, oh, we finally have a product that we're able to actually put on the market. And so I guess they were like, let's just go ahead and get ahead of this. Y'all aren't working on anything right now, so let's just go ahead and cancel the studio, or close down the studio rather. But I struggle at a time where y'all don't have that much in the way of first-party offerings. Yeah, this year has been good, but last year was kind of light for them. And
let's go see Yote and Death Stranding.
Well, actually, that's a pretty solid year. But hold on, was it Astrobot? Was that the year where it was just Astrobot?
Yes.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I would imagine that at some point they wanted to have a heavier first-party slate than what they have and what they've done this generation, just in general. And to me, it just doesn't. I get how it might make financial sense, but it doesn't make creative sense, and it certainly doesn't make sense from like a gaming perspective. Like, having fewer studios flat out is going to mean fewer games, which means fewer opportunities to find those next big hits. I don't understand.
I don't get it either, man.
And this, really, this is the worst news. Like, we're going to talk about Xbox in a minute, and that was the planned thing. But when Keem brought up Bluepoint, I said, man, I do want to talk about Bluepoint for a bit, because it is just such a shame that this happened, because it is the result of them deciding to try to put money into what is probably the riskiest market. It's kind of like buying a lotto ticket. Like, all this live service shit, it's like buying a lotto ticket. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, if you scratch and get the $1 billion, all right, you got $1 billion. But chances are you're not going to get that scratch. And what you actually going to wind up with is like, hey, man, we're going to have to close down this studio because we didn't make any money off this, or we couldn't even get this game off the ground, like The Last of Us multiplayer, like Last of Us 2 factions or something like that, where it's like, all right, we tried, it didn't work, and now we don't know what to do, and we've been set back, and we got to lay people off. And it's like, man,
this is
stick to what you're good at.
This is eerily similar to the era of the 2010s where everybody was trying to make MMOs that failed.
Man, well,
and so many failed back to back to back. They were chasing that trend, and that's a hard market.
MMOs right. And then MOBAs right after that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now here
hero
we are,
shooters.
Hero shooters, battle royales, just any kind of live service, like anything where they can continue. I understand the logic behind it. Line must go up. And so, like, you have this thing where you can continuously add certain new content, new characters, or new costumes, new things, and then you just get a fuck ton of money not so much easily, but like in a way that a single player game, a box premium, a launch, you'll never get that kind of profit from them. But you got to understand, like, you can't just effectively, because like 12, even when they said it at the time, like years back, when they said they wanted 12 live service games, I'm like, that's just throwing 12 darts at the wall. And that can't be your approach. Yeah. And yet it seems like that was Sony's approach, and it certainly seems like it was Ubisoft's approach, because I've heard so many stories about them canceling live service titles as well. And it's like, man, maybe put more thought and do fewer of them. Do fewer live service projects and put more thought into the ones that you're making, instead of just trying to turn everybody, especially since this is what y'all known for. Y'all known for single player titles. Y'all known for your God of Wars, your Horizon, your Spider-Man, your Ghost of Tsushima. Like, that's what you're known for. And to just try to make such a huge shift and turn in an opposite direction, that wasn't going to work, even if it worked.
Yeah.
Even if you liked the games that you were going to put out, the fans probably were going to revolt against them. You see, like, all of us, not just the three of us, but also Devin and Will, we all thought Horizon Hunters Gathering looked good. And what was the general reaction to Horizon Hunters Gathering?
Yeah, they were like, another one.
Everybody online, like, this looked like ass.
Live service slot.
I can't believe y'all making this. More gas bullshit. The stupid Concord jokes. Like, look what you're setting yourself up for. Like, I understand that people was making fun of y'all at the end of the generation, like, oh, the Sony first party games template, and it was like over the shoulder narrative based games, that type shit. But that worked for y'all. It got the critical and the commercial success, and to make a shift from that into a market where you're like, oh, well, actually, we don't know if this is gonna work at all. Like, it seems like it's bold, but it's actually just like greedy. So
that's a great point, Sage. Nintendo been making platformers since the 80s.
And ain't stopped.
And they still making them. Yeah. They don't give a fuck what y'all talking about. They just made them better and prettier.
What's that one bar from Charlie Clips versus Hollow, where the dude, Hollow predicted his bars, and then Clips just did the same shit anyway. He got a reaction. He said, long as it get a reaction. And that's Nintendo. Nintendo, like, long as it get a reaction, long as it gets sales, we don't care. We gonna keep doing Mario and Donkey Kong and Zelda and Pokemon, and as long as it keeps selling, so what?
And you know what? It's one of those things where I get the allure of doing these live service games, like, from these execs, because when you look at games like Fortnite and especially Roblox, I believe there was some report about Roblox recently about it essentially have, like, Roblox's revenue is like a certain percentage of the entire gaming industry. Like,
a large percentage.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Like a large percentage of the game. Like, essentially you have these games that are drawing in money that's like the equivalent of a GDP for, like, small countries. And I can understand the allure of that. But the thing is, not every game is going to be that. And, like, the most successful game that I think PlayStation has had in that regard is Helldivers 2, and even that's not at the level of Fortnite or Roblox. So, yeah, obviously this path, like you said, it just isn't working. And I can get the pushback that gamers are having against it. I don't think gamers saying that they want these games to fail is the right way to do it, but I can understand the pushback, because ultimately gamers are not getting what they want. They want Horizon 3. They want the next God of War. They want Bloodborne remake. And PlayStation deciding to not do what the obvious thing is and try and go down this live service path in an attempt to make more money when all the money they have isn't enough for whatever reason is just foolish.
After Elden Ring came out, I would have been on the phone with Miyazaki, Sony exec. We putting out Bloodborne remake. You got to give me a number. I don't care what it is. We put this out.
Clearly, it's like Miyazaki and his team, based on, because they can only say so much, but based on like an interview from last year, it sounds like they really want to do it, but for some reason, PlayStation is holding it back. And I guess we'll never know why. It is so weird. It's so weird that you have an audience that is crying for this product. They want to give you money, but they just, for PlayStation, for whatever reason, they're just choosing not to do it. It's so weird.
They'll eventually do it, because that's just the nature of it. Like, that's not the first project where everybody's like, they should do this. It would be so easy. And every time it takes years, and when it happens, it always sells. Like Mass Effect, when Mass Effect had the collection, and people, they begged for that collection for years. And finally, when it happened, they were like, oh, this still did way better than we thought. You think when people are begging for the same thing year after year after year, that people are like, oh, we want that? Like, of course they want it.
That's why we know GTA is going to sell, like, because they kept asking for it for years and years and years and years. One last thing to go to your point, Terrence, you were talking about, like the games that make so much money, like Roblox and Fortnite. Minecraft, of course, is one of those as well. Good point to have about those is a lot of those games were never intended to be the successes they were. Like, you're trying to chase those successes, but a lot of these games, like Minecraft, I know for a fact, those were much smaller projects when they were created. Kind of experimental. In a lot of cases, they were kind of cutting edge, experimental, trying different things. Heck, Minecraft had one developer when it was created, and then they got sold to Microsoft later. Fortnite was a completely different game in a different genre. It was a horde survival game. Wait, is it? Oh, my bad. Is the screen frozen? Oh, no, y'all face was just not moving. Okay, my bad.
We're just listening to you.
I was just listening. I was thinking about it because I was like, dang, now that you mentioned it, most of the big breakout successes, they didn't start as like this. The intention was to make a big breakout success. Even something like Among Us or Fall Guys, like there's none of those developers thought that's what they were going to wind up doing when they first made it. Like
I wish Devin was here because he has this point he brings it up all the time. Make the game good first, and the money will follow. Like, you gotta look. What you want really is you get your developers to start off with interesting concepts and smaller budgets, because these games weren't super expensive. They got sold later for a lot of money and eventually made a lot of money. But a lot of these games were like smaller. Well, except for Fortnite, it took a long time to come out, so that probably did have a lot of development costs. But in a lot of cases, like, they just had cool ideas. Like, okay, Fortnite, I want to make a fort with my friends and shoot zombies. That was the whole game. Minecraft, hey, let's do this digging and adventuring and, kind of like a little multiplayer kind of concept. And then over time, they expanded those concepts. And a lot of that was involved with community engagement. Minecraft and modding became a big thing. And that's why it blew up, because modding became so popular and all the different things you can install on it. And they even, like, the new game just came out, Hightail, was based off people who made Minecraft mods. Like, Minecraft was so popular that people became developers themselves to make a better version of Minecraft that they wanted, because they love Minecraft so much. So yeah, like Sony, I think the problem is they're seeing the aftermath, but they're not seeing the grind before and like the conceptual design before. And that's more so what you should be chasing at this point. What creatively draws people to your game that is different enough that they won't be like, oh, this is just another live service slop. Oh, this is just another this. Oh, this is just another that. What stands out about your game from the concept? I think that's more so what they should be looking into. But no, they're chasing the dollars.
It's one of those things where artistically people love to chase the result and not the process itself. Like, it's easy to see. Well, it's like the iceberg theory. When you have a success, you get to see all the accolades, all the money and everything that is the result of the process. But underneath the iceberg is like the rejection, the long hours of work, et cetera, et cetera. You don't get to see all the stuff that made the success, but you just want to go for what's on top of the iceberg and not what's beneath it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem that everybody has, but in particular, a corporation is naturally going to be like, well, we can go after and get the money. Interestingly, Rakeem brought up something that made me think, like, dang, that's another thing that Roblox does as well. Is like, it's a huge focus on what I can create within the game. And Sony had a game like that. They had Dreams. And they just never put the support behind Dreams. Like, I feel like they hyped up Dreams a little bit at first, but then they very quickly. And let me check this, because did Dreams make it to PC?
That I don't know off the top of my head. But I know what you'd like. There are people still to this day who I've seen people do work in Dreams, and it, like, the stuff that people can put out with that, it's incredible. I mean, the same
Dreams
idea was behind Little Big Plan, was the idea that you just make your own game, essentially. Yep. I mean, that's really cool.
Oh, Little Big Plan was so fun.
From what I'm seeing, Dreams is not on PC, and that's such a mistake. Like, they could have, I feel like that game could have found a whole other life if they had put it on PC. And it's almost certainly too late now. But at the time in 2020 when it came out, it's like, man, this could have taken off. And because it was such a powerful and unique game creation engine, and it was designed for that. And yet they were just like, it was on PlayStation 4, and yeah, you can get some love for that on console, but that's really a PC thing. Like in the same way that Roblox and Minecraft, they got their start on PC, and because it's closer to what you would actually program on anyway, and you just everything about it is more geared towards designing video games. I don't know, instead of getting your own version of Super Mario Maker, you probably could have had your own version of Minecraft, and you kind of blew it. And I don't know, man. I just hope that going forward they're more solid and they're not just like betraying their studios like this. Because now that I think about it, I am a little worried for Media Molecule, and I'm worried for really the developers over at Fair Games. I don't even know if they'll ever get a chance to put that game out. There are some people that think that there's no shot that game ever comes out. So
yeah.
Now, my question next is like, if you have this many live services failures, like is PlayStation just going to do a big pivot? Like, you know what, this ain't working. We got to get back to what we do well.
I think the pivot has already happened. Because who was the guy that started all that? It wasn't Herman Holtz.
It was the other guy.
The guy that was in there in place before.
What's his name? Hurst? What's his name?
Well, no, Herman Holtz is the guy they got now.
He's the guy that put out this message that he probably needs to go to.
It ain't great.
Wait, did he say he need to go to?
No, that's me saying that.
Oh, he probably does.
Who was Sony's previous, the previous guy that was oversee of
Jim Ryan was before, right?
That's who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Ryan was the guy that fucked everything up. Jim Ryan was the guy that had everything focused on like games as a service and like we're gonna make 12 of these and yada yada. And it's like, okay. And I feel like the pivot has already begun to go back to single player games. But the problem is games take 5, 6, 7 years to develop.
Yeah.
And so it'll be 5, 6, 7 years before we start to see like, oh, okay, y'all back to what y'all know y'all are good at. So
yeah.
In other news, equally, well, not nearly as depressing, but just as worrying.
If you were Xbox only, it probably is.
Out of nowhere, man. It seems like Phil Spencer has retired. Seems like Sarah Bond is I don't know about retired, but she's certainly no longer at Microsoft. And we've got a new Xbox boss in former Core AI executive Asha Sharma. This comes from IGN. It's Ryan McCaffrey. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, who has been at Microsoft since he joined as an intern in 1988, and with Xbox since the software giant launched its first console in 2001, is retiring. Sources familiar with the matter, who are not authorized to speak publicly, confirmed to IGN. Spencer's retirement is effective on Monday, February 23rd. Meanwhile, Xbox president Sarah Bond, long thought by many both inside and outside of Microsoft to be Spencer's heir apparent, has resigned. The new CEO of Microsoft Gaming will be Asha Sharma, currently the president of Microsoft's Core AI product. Finally, Xbox Game Studio head Matt Booty is being promoted to Chief Content Officer and will work closely with Sharma. Quote, I want to thank Phil for his extraordinary leadership and partnership. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said in an email sent to Microsoft staff, over 38 years at Microsoft, including 12 leading gaming. Phil helped transform what we do and how we do it. Full emails from Nadella, Spencer, Sharma, and Booty are below. Interestingly enough, when this article was first written, there was no statement from Sarah Bond, so that should let you know something. Spencer, in his email to Microsoft staff, said in part, last fall, I shared with Satya that I was thinking about stepping back and starting the next chapter of my life. From that moment, we aligned on approaching this transition with intention, ensuring stability and strengthening the foundation we've built. Xbox has always been more than a business. It's a vibrant community of players, creators, and teams who care deeply about what we build and how we build it, and it deserves a thoughtful, deliberate plan for the road ahead. Today marks an exciting new chapter for Microsoft Gaming as Asha Sharma steps into the role of CEO, and I want to be the first to welcome her to this incredible team. Working with her over the past several months has given me tremendous confidence. She brings genuine curiosity, clarity, and a deep commitment to understanding players, creators, and the decisions that shape our future. We know this is an important moment for our fans, partners, and team, and we're committing to getting it right. I'll remain in an advisory role through the summer to support a smooth handoff. I like that part, even though I feel like this is Xbox's 25th anniversary. I would have liked it more if you had just stuck around through the 25th and then going into the 26th, be like, all right, man, I'm out. I feel like that would have made a little more sense. Which brings me to my first question. Do y'all think that this was planned? Like, are y'all buying that this was planned?
Nah, man. I'll give you this. I think I saw an interview or something where I'd heard Phil Spencer was wrapping it up and thinking about retirement, and consider all the years he had with Microsoft. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think at the point he's at now, it's probably time to retire. And then especially like the last few years of Xbox have been really rough in a lot of cases with their business. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't care if you're a rich man or the guy who works in the office. When your business is doing bad and you can see it, you be like, I might need to get up out of here. And that's from everybody from the top to the bottom. It happens. It happens, man. Lead the sinking ship. The Sarah Bond thing, I think, is really interesting because it felt like she was groomed to be next.
Absolutely.
So part of me is like, okay, they canned her and decided to get somebody else. And a part of me is like, maybe she found out that she wasn't replacing Phil and was like, oh, hell no, and I'm out of here. That could also be what happened.
Could be.
Valid, because, I mean, like you said, like we before we started the podcast, we looked this up. She had been with the company for like 9 years.
Yeah, she's been there a long time.
Yeah, it seemed like it was very clear that she was going to be the next woman up. And instead, they were like, yeah, you ain't the next woman up.
Yeah, clearly. I ain't buying it. I think this was from up top. We all know the woes Xbox has gone through, the studios they've had to close, how Game Pass has kind of come to a head and like, all right, it's not really growing more. And there's been a lot of issues. So from a business perspective, when I'm Microsoft and I'm the parent company, I'm seeing bad over time. I can see them like, all right, let's try something new. Maybe we can get some new blood in here and see if somebody who's used to scaling businesses or trying to manage the issues we're having and get somebody else with a different vision. And also, we know there's a big push in AI right now, so we'll see if that's a part of this.
Because like when you say all that stuff, it sounds like it makes sense. You're like, oh yeah, let's get a new face in here with some new ideas. But like, the only new ideas that Microsoft would have right now as a company would involve AI, which is, I don't know if anybody else noticed, is tremendously unpopular. Like the fans, no gamer wants that shit for the most part.
No.
Like periodically you'll see a few people that are just trying to make a buck off AI, be like, oh man, AI would be so great. But for the most part, you see people that are like, I don't want this. And and interesting, let's get to Asha's statement. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Quote from Asha Sharma, quote, my first job is simple. Understand what makes this work and protect it. That starts with 3 commitments. First, great games. Everything begins here. We must have great games beloved by players before we do anything. Unforgettable characters, stories that make us feel, innovative gameplay, and creative excellence. We will empower our studios, invest in iconic franchises, and back bold new ideas. We will take risks. We will enter new categories and markets where we can add real value, grounded in what players care about most. I promoted Matt Booty in honor of this commitment. He understands the craft and the challenges of building great games, has led teams that deliver award-winning work, and has earned the trust of game developers across the industry. Second, the return of Xbox. We will recommit to our core Xbox fans and players, those who have invested with us for the past 25 years, and to the developers who build the expansive universes and experiences that are embraced by players across the world. We will celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with console, which has shaped who we are. It connects us to the players and fans who invest in Xbox and to the developers who build ambitious experiences for it. Gaming now lives across devices, not within the limits of any single piece of hardware. I thought you just said that you were going to focus on console.
That contradicts itself, a little bit. Okay.
We'll get into it a little bit. As we expand across PC, mobile, cloud, Xbox should feel seamless, instant, and worthy of the communities we serve. We will break down barriers so developers can build once and reach players everywhere without compromise. Third, future of play. We are witnessing the reinvention of play. To meet the moment, we will invent new business models and new ways to play by leaning into what we already have: iconic teams, characters, and worlds that people love. But we will not treat those worlds as static IP to milk and monetize. We will build a shared platform and tools that empower developers and players to create and share their own stories. As monetization and AI evolve and influence this future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us.
Yeah.
Terrence, how do you feel about that statement?
I mean, time will tell how much of this holds up and what doesn't hold up. I'll say this. Like you said, Microsoft, really just Microsoft. Microsoft is very AI driven right now. They've incorporated Copilot into so many of their services, from Office to Word, or just the whole suite. They've
Bing.
incorporated, they've incorporated like Teams. They've incorporated Copilot into all of it, and it's clear, based on they released their fiscal year 26 Q2 earnings last month, and it's clear they talked about how AI has resulted in some earnings on their side. I don't know, man. This is just one of those things where we'll have to see what you do and not what you say. Because you could say like, oh, we're not chasing soulless AI slop. But at the same time, we know Microsoft is in the pursuit of AI right now. That's a big part of their business plan. And I think them letting go of Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond is a part of this. Like, they want to reel in Xbox more into the Microsoft ecosystem, because it's not that Xbox has been like off on its own in comparison to like Microsoft. Like there's like greater Microsoft, and then there's like Xbox. It's not like Xbox has necessarily been off on its own per se, but I think this may be Microsoft's opportunity to really bring them more so in a line with everything else that they're doing. I think Phil Spencer leaving, like him retiring, since he had already kind of talked about it in the past, while this is very sudden, we knew this was probably going to happen at some point. Maybe just not the way that it did, but we knew that this was going to happen.
Right.
With Sarah Bond, like you all have said, that was probably a decision from the top. And it's unfortunate because I like Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond as like the faces of Xbox. Like, whenever there were presentations and they were involved, I'm not saying that they were above critique or they didn't have their flaws in terms of the things they did with their time during Xbox, but I like them as the faces. Like, when they came out and when they would present stuff, it felt like they genuinely cared about making Xbox better. Now that they're both gone, I really don't know. I mean, at least Matt Booty is still there, but it's weird. I'll say this. It's weird that he wasn't the one that was put at the top of the food chain as opposed to this new person, which with her, she doesn't come from any kind of gaming background. So it's weird to put her in such a huge leadership position over Xbox without having been involved in gaming at all. And I mean, the same could have been said about Sarah Bond when she came in. She didn't have any experience with gaming, but she grew into it. Maybe this person will as well. But like I said, that's one of those things where time will tell. We'll just have to see what actually happens as opposed to what's being said.
I think I'm more in favor of Sarah Bond because she was second in command. And so, like, if you come in with no gaming experience, but you're like second in command, it's like, okay, well, you've got time to learn the ropes and figure this whole thing out.
That's true.
And by the time that you take over, which if she had taken over here, it would have been 9 years of experience in the gaming industry. I can't get mad at that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just,
I mean,
okay.
Seeing a black woman in that kind of position, I'll admit, it's really cool.
I always thought that was dope.
Yeah, I always thought that was really dope with Xbox to have Sarah Bond in the position that she was in. You know, I know some people are going to be saying like, oh, you know, race doesn't matter. But I mean, look, It does us.
Yeah, it does.
It does us.
Yeah.
This shit means something to me, man.
Yeah, it means something to me, man. And I was happy to have her there. Every time when I first saw her, I said, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. Yeah. And I thought that eventually she would take over, and I was cool with that as well. And, 9 years in, you've got more than enough experience to me to run it. Like, you've been doing the second in command job all this time like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As far as whether or not it was planned for her, like, someone pointed out her last LinkedIn post before the announcement that she was out, 4 hours before, quote, "We love to learn more about how you play so we can continue improving Xbox accessibility features. When everybody plays, we all win." That was her last post on LinkedIn right before they announced that she was out. So clearly someone just walked in and was like, yeah, that's enough. Enough of this. Like, we done with this era of Xbox. And here's my thing. And so I saw this somewhere else. I can't remember where I saw it, but I did see this somewhere else where they were like, I think everything that's being said in these statements, Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond were already kind of doing and would have been fine doing like a slightly modified version of it. And so to me, if you're replacing both of them entirely, that suggests that you're actually not going to do what you see here, and you're probably going to do a 180. And so like all this stuff about, oh, we're, gaming, we're going to focus on consoles. It's like, all right. And even in the statement, you go from we're going to focus on console to gaming lives across devices, not within the limits of any single piece of hardware. You got to pick. It can't be both. You can't focus on consoles, but also it's not within the limits of any single piece of hardware. Like, and it sounds like you did pick. You say what?
But everything's Xbox, Sage, right?
Yeah, well,
that's part of the problem.
And so that brings me to another question. How long do they keep up this Xbox thing? Like, and I just mean the box. Do they keep up the Xbox, or are we entering an era where it's just Xbox gaming or Microsoft gaming, and they're effectively a third-party studio?
Well, I can start with this one. We know they're working on a new console. We know that's happening. But let's see, with all the delays that's happening because of, ironically, AI is a big part of this. And all these consoles are getting pushed back. Do they pivot from the traditional console model? Because, I think what's happening is, and even in their own statement, their head is in two different places. They don't want to completely drop the console market because there is still a lot of value there, and that's where their history is in. But they also know, like, hey, the next generation of consoles is screwed because of all the issues we have with AI taking up all these, all this RAM and things we need for our consoles. So I think maybe they're saying this double statement because they don't know yet. They don't actually know yet, like, exactly. They have a new CEO. They're trying to think of what their pivot is, but like, hey, maybe let's weigh our options. Let's see where it goes. If we can get it out and it comes out on time, we'll go the console route. If we don't, we'll try something else. They already got Game Pass. Game Pass already has a streaming part in it. Like, game streaming is getting a little better already. I still don't think it's quite there yet for like a full pivot away from it, but it's close enough where I can see the next console generation after this one. I can see streaming being like the next wave.
I think we did an episode on this, and that was my prediction that like this current generation, or this next generation, would still be a box, and then the generation after that would just be like a dongle that you plugged in. And there would still be, I don't think that they're going to get rid of boxes anytime soon, even 2 generations from now, but those boxes will be more niche, like way more niche. And you'll see it being like, maybe the box is a more premium experience for premium gamers. Sorry, I had to do that joke. And it's $1,000 for a console because everybody else is paying $99 or $150 for a dongle that they plug in, and it connects to the Xbox services or the PlayStation services. And that's good enough for most people that just want to play Call of Duty or NBA 2K or whatever, like the ball and gun gamers. All jokes aside, that's the majority of the console player base. And so it's going to be good enough for them. Like, they're not as keyed in on like, oh, the lag, and I can't believe this is lagged out. Like, they notice lag, but it's got to be bad for them to be like, oh man, this is awful.
It's got to be like
a fighting game
5-second delay or something.
Yeah, it's got to be terrible for them, as opposed to like a fighting game player where it's like a couple frames and they like, all right, man, this shit trash.
I can't play the fighting game on streaming. It's impossible.
Exactly.
I cannot do it.
And so I can see a world, not 2 years from now when they release these consoles, but like 10 years from now when they release the next set. It's like, hey man, if you want bots, you will have to go to like a certain place for it. And it's like, I can easily see the box sales dropping by a lot, actually, to like half of what PlayStation did this year. Something like that.
I can also say, man, thinking about this and like, the next generation of consoles and what we've had this conversation about when consoles would actually die for a long time.
Absolutely.
But my brain has like, even in this conversation, we talked about Bluepoint and we talked about Xbox and the woes or issues they've gone through, and these conversations. A part of me is almost like, man, is it the consoles that's going to be going away, or is it like really my fear in the future? This is just an aside. What happens if like these companies are like, you know what? Why are we making first party games at all? Why are we making these everybody's playing these multiplayer games are available on all platforms and they just generate money every month. Like, why are we making first party games? And that's the fear I have. Like, they just completely go away from that model completely.
I want to tell you that that's not something to worry about. But then again, I told you about this the other night. There was this guy that used to work at Square Enix that was like, oh yeah, of course Sony is trying to make the live service thing work. Single player games are losers. And then he quoted like a future of gaming. It comes out every year. It's like a deep dive into like game sales and stuff like that. I think that's where Terrence pulled the Roblox thing from,
right?
Because it was a big part of that story. And one of the things in that article was like how all the sequels to all the big Sony first party games didn't sell as well as the first games. And even though I said, hey man, they still sold 16 million, 17 million, 18 million. If that's not enough for them, if they only want to chase the multiplayer thing, instead of spending 300 million on Spider-Man only for it to sell, and it sold 16 million, I think it'll continue to sell. But instead of selling 16 million, 18 million copies, like, why not just get into games as a service? Why not just do that? But then again, I mean,
everybody can't do it. That's the problem.
If the consoles go away, you're going to have something or you're out of the industry. Because, like, at what point do I decide, like, if there's no first party, why do I need PlayStation? Why do I need Xbox?
Right.
Yeah.
Why can't I
go
go
PC at that point?
At that point, you just, like I said, at that point, you just like a brand. You just a shoe now. It's
Nike,
why
can't I just
Skechers,
use Steam?
Right.
Which is going to be better at it anyway.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which, I mean, at that point,
Steam wins in all of these examples, to be honest, except for the whole Steam Machine thing, which is a whole nother bag of work.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, everybody should just be Sega then. Just dip out of the console business and just make software.
Make games.
Which, I mean, like, they spent millions and millions are spent on R&D to design the next console every generation.
Oh, yeah.
And so if there ever came a point where there was no new console, it's like, man, we could save this money on this R&D and just put it into gaming or just, other parts of our industry. So,
I used to love when they have the game, they show the videos of the console designers, like the guys who specialize in designing the next game consoles, and they go deep dives on like the technology and how they did the R&D, the aesthetic design. Like, I used to love watching that, like see like how they created, because it's pretty creative how they get around certain things and be able to make these consoles as usable as they are, especially like when they upgraded a lot from the PS1, the PS2 generation, PS3, PS4, and the HD gaming.
The cell processor.
Ken Kutaragi with all the different crazy ass name, like the Emotion Engine for the PS2, and then the cell processor for the PS3, and them shits was always hard as fuck to program for.
Yeah.
Went until the PS4, where they was like, "Why are we doing this? Why can't we just use x86 and just keep it?" One last question I want to ask, and this is a big one. With this happening, is this an excuse to finally get away from Game Pass?
I don't think, like, are you talking about like, is like Xbox get away from Game Pass?
Yeah.
I think Game Pass is here to stay. Like, you kind of open Pandora's box on that one. Like, that's a service that, while it's not growing at the rate that it was before, I think it's still a valuable service that Xbox would love to keep on their side, because it's still the thing that they have over PlayStation. PlayStation, while they have
is, I guess I'm asking that because there is some evidence that they aren't getting the numbers that they want from Game Pass, from, like, as far as like overall subscriber base. And then it's also hurting the amount of people that are purchasing the games, like spending $60 or $70. So that's what made me ask.
I mean, I think still it's valuable to keep it for now, but it may be revamped in some way in the future. Like, we're probably going to see a price increase at some point. So many of these streaming services now, they're increasing the prices without really adding anything to it. Crunchyroll, they increased their price recently, after years of having their price be the same, but they're not really adding anything. Where are you going to go? And also, I mean, they're not adding anything new to it. Like, there's still so many things that Crunchyroll lacks that if they added those things, then maybe you could see the price increase being worth it. But to increase the price and there's nothing really added of value, it's like, what are we doing here? So me personally, I don't see, I see Game Pass being here to stay for now. How it gets revamped or what they do with it in the future, I think that is yet to be determined. That's just one of those we'll have to wait and see kind of things. And, I would love to hear from people who use Game Pass, what they think that it needs to be a better service and whatnot. So
we need Devin.
I use it.
Oh, well, there you go, Keen.
Yeah, you go for it then.
I use it. I mean, I have a weird setup right now because I have a gaming laptop and not a desktop right now. For me, I use Game Pass for, like, certain games to try them out. Of course, their first party titles. Like last year, I tried Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 for Obsidian because I'm an RPG guy. But I also feel like there were times where throughout last year I was like, yeah, Game Pass is cool, but there's times where I don't feel like renting a game. I guess renting a game back in the day, we went to the store, you went every Saturday to pick the game out, just felt different than now when you just go on a long list. Like, one thing, games are really long now. So, like, yeah, I can rent a game and all these games on the list, but I might play one game and it might take me 2 to 3 months to beat it.
Yeah.
And now, like, I spent that 2 to 3 months of games on one game. And now, although I'm paying for a service for all these games, I really only play like 1 or 2 games. Like, I'm not playing that many different games. So although I have a bevy of choice, there isn't enough incentive for me as a gamer, right, in the style of games I play, to have 100 games available to me at all times, rather than just purchasing one game at a time. Normally, like, I sell by PlayStation, and as Sage knows, I play on PlayStation primarily. I'm still my most popular choice about PlayStation, and I play a lot of games 1, 2, 3 months to get through, maybe, because I have a work schedule. So I don't find myself, while I'm doing that, I'm not playing my Xbox Game Pass game. So it's kind of gathering dust. So I think my main issue with Xbox is that, yeah, you have a bevy of choice, decent price point, but I don't, because of there are so many games now that are so long and take a lot of time to engage in. I don't really need to have 50 games available to me every month. I'm only playing one.
So you might as well just buy that one, huh?
Correct.
Like, so you actually own that one instead of like, oh, if I lose Game Pass, I lose that game.
That's another one.
So, yeah.
That's another one. Recently, I have the PlayStation. I got too many services. I also have PS Plus. So I have both services. I have both PlayStation and Xbox services. And on my PS, I remember specifically I went to play what's the RPG game that came out that Sea of Stars. And I had played Sea of Stars for like 20 hours and put it down. I was going back to it. They took it off the service. So now I had to buy it. And I was like, well, this sucks. I had forgotten. So here's another thing. I had forgotten that I didn't pay for it. It was just all the service. And so now I can't play it. And I was like, well, I don't even feel like buying it again now because I spent so much time and I got to pay extra. I might go back at some point, but that just disheartened me a little bit. And I feel like taking games off of the service, once I put time into them, if I put 20 hours to a game and come back later and it's going, I'm going to be pissed. I got to put $70 into it.
I don't think Game Pass will go anywhere, but I do think it is a bet that they made that did not pay off. I think they thought, and I think what a lot of what Keem said is a lot of what they were banking on, that you would play maybe 1 or 2 games, but it wouldn't matter because you're paying them every month. But that only works if they have a certain number of people subscribe to the service every month. Like I think what was the last number? 30 million, 35 million, somewhere in there.
Something like
which
that.
is a lot of people, but I think they wanted 100 million, And that's probably a little high. That's probably not what they needed for it to be profitable. But it's very clear that they fell short of what they needed to do what they wanted to do, which is to have all these games come out that weren't necessarily winners on their own, but they did add to the library. And so it became one more reason for you to stay subscribed, even though in reality, like Keem said, you're only going to play 1 or 2 games a month, at best. And so I wonder if what we see is, the enshittification of Xbox Game Pass. They already raised the price once. I could see them raising it again. I could also see them pulling off some of the games on there, maybe stripping it back to like a smaller library, because if I'm not mistaken, there are hundreds of games on Game Pass.
Oh, yeah.
And
there's a lot.
I could easily, I only say that because I could easily see it being like, because Rakeem said 100 games, and I could see them doing that. I could see them paring it back until it's just like 100 video games, and everything else you got to buy. And they may change what 100 games you have available from month to month. Or they might make it so that, and I don't think they've done this yet, like there's a basic service where you do have access to 100 games, and then there's a tier above that where you get access to more, and a tier above that where you get access to everything. And I definitely think that there is, in fact, haven't they done this? Haven't they pulled day and date for basic level Xbox Game Pass?
Ooh, I don't know.
Like
I actually think you might be right, but of course, somebody have to fact check us on that. But
yeah,
I think you're right. I think day and date is for like the premium, I think.
Yeah, I can see them doing a little bit more of that, trying to create a greater stratification between the tiers, where it gets to a point where you're like, hey man, if you get the basic, you're going to just get a handful of video games, kind of like what PlayStation Plus does now with their PS Plus basic, premium, extra, whatever the
the basic one just gets you the like 3 or 4 games for free that you get every month, and then as you climb up, then you have access to a fuller library.
And of course, the classic, they have a lot of classics on there too.
Yeah.
This is a random thing, and I don't know. One thing I will say is a person who actually has both services. The one thing that does work for me, and I think Xbox should look into this, like, man, having the library works a lot better for old games. Because I've gone on PS Plus Premium for the classics. I downloaded like 15 games like the last month. I was just trying old games all the time. That's an audience there for like, man, let me play some old games, man. Like, y'all got Tekken 3 on here. Y'all got the original Spyro. You got Rayman on here. I feel like older game, like if you use Xbox Game Pass as a gaming library to like catalog all your games histories in there, and then of course you can't get everything because licensing and all that, but that just works better for me than all the newer games sometimes.
Well,
I feel like I don't even have the same mindset.
Nintendo kind of does that, but their service is garbage. Nintendo easily has the worst of the services.
I think the problem there is they're looking for constant spend. And modern games have ways to constantly keep you spending money.
And older,
and that's the issue. Like, they keep treating you like a wallet that they can just squeeze and get more money out whenever they want. And it's like, man, that's not. No one wants to be treated like that. And so, of course, you're running into the same problems over and over again because people are like, I don't want to be a wallet. I want to be a gamer, and I want you to treat me like a gamer or treat me like a customer that you respect instead of just like sugar daddy. It's just gonna trick off on you whenever you want.
That's why Steam and good old game service way better.
Yep.
Way better. Way more respected because they do things that respect the gamer's time. Steam with their sales and all types of great functionality. Good old games for like game preservation. Like they pride themselves on game preservation. They got games they even own PC on there. They brought them over there to make sure they could save them. Like when gamers see that, when they see value, I think that's another thing. Like what we get out of value as a consumer for your service matters. And it's not just the games. Like when I go to a service, the UI, getting to everything, the accessibility features, the like different things I even, you might not even think about, like the little system Steam have for like badges and trading and all that stuff that no one else had. Like they got ahead of that, and PlayStation, Xbox just didn't even try to replicate things like that. It was like, bro, screw it. We're gonna have these pay streaming services, pay for this, pay for that. Yeah. So like it comes down to when we use these services, Xbox, for example, and why they hit a wall was that, yeah, this is cool that we are able to stream games, but like there are things we get from other services that are better, that better respect our time, along with allowing us to play games. It's not just about the games, it's about the perception of the customer has towards how you treat them. And that really matters.
One thing as we close out, one thing I want to talk about is I know a lot of people thought Phil Spencer wasn't great at his job, and I think that can be debated, but I do want to say be careful what you wish for, because Phil's gone now and Sarah Bond is gone now, and so like that was your sin eater, as it was. Like that was the guy that did the people that you thought were behind Xbox not doing well, and so now the gamer is out of the building. Like Phil Spencer, for all of his faults, even though a ton of people had nothing but kind things to say about him, both fellow developers and people outside of the industry, well, not outside of the industry, but like reporters and things like that, they all had nothing but nice things to say about him. And now he's gone. And so now you have someone in here they come from Microsoft Core AI. And I don't care what that statement says. AI at some point is going to be a part of this. Microsoft is one of the few is one of many companies. I take that back. Not one of the few. Microsoft is one of many companies that is like, hey, even if you're not using AI, you better start using AI. Like they want their employees to start using AI, even if the employees themselves have no use for AI, and they're like, hey, I don't like it. They're like, hey, I don't care what you like. You better start using it. And so like it will not be long before they find a way to put AI into their games. That statement, every statement you see like this, there's always some wiggle room. There's always a way for them to interpret it where they say, well, look, we said we wouldn't flood it with soulless AI slop, but this is thoughtfully used AI, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. Like, do not for a second think that, I mean, like this year is probably good. There's only so many things you can, with a company of this size, there's only so many changes you can make in the first year to make things go bad. So like Fable and in Gears of War E-Day coming out this year?
It should be.
Yeah, we haven't heard much from it since that first trailer, though.
Fable and Gears of War E-Day and
Forza
Horizon 7. All those six. My bad. Sorry. All those games, those are going to be good. And 2027 will probably still be good. Like you'll probably finally get Clockwork Revolution and a couple of those other games, maybe State of Decay 3 if it's finally about to come out. But some of those other games, some of those games is further out, 2028. That's when you really gonna start to see the problems. So you're gonna start to see the real vision of Xbox going forward. And I just want y'all to pay attention, because like what you've been seeing, where they're like actually hands off and letting developers come out with their games, whether it's mistake free or whether it's a kind of a mess like Redfall, like whatever it was, they just kind of let the developers do what they were gonna do. That's about to shift, and that's about to change. And the Xbox that you felt like you knew for the past 25 years is about to be gone, and I hope everybody's ready for that. So that's going to wrap this week up. If you're new to us and like this episode, I need you to hit the like button. I need you to subscribe, tell your friends about us, and do me a personal favor. Have an excellent week, man. Go play some video games that you love. Peace.